Once upon a time, in a village nestled between hills and a lake, there lived a young girl named Phi. Every night she would sit by her window watching the stars twinkle above her like scattered diamonds. But one night, just as the moon had climbed high in the velvet sky and fireflies were beginning their nocturnal dance, Phi witnessed something extraordinary. A bright star, larger than the rest, streaked across the heavens and disappeared behind the trees near her house. Curious, Vi slipped out of her window and crept through the tall grass towards where the star had fallen. Her bare feet barely made a sound on the dewy ground as she walked, and soon enough, she saw something lying in the tall grass near her chrysanthemum patch. It was a clay pot with a familiar blue glaze that belonged to her grandmother. With trembling hands, she lifted it up. It was warm, almost as if the pot itself were radiating heat. And then, as she peered inside, her eyes widened in wonder. There, nestled within the petals of the chrysanthemums, was a delicate glowing orb, pulsing softly like a distant heartbeat. It was no bigger than her palm, yet it emitted a light so gentle and pure it felt like the starlight had taken physical form. Hesitantly, Phi reached out and touched it. The orb, still radiating warmth, felt smooth and cool to the touch. Its glow intensified, bathing the surroundings in ethereal light before dimming once more. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed, shattering the silence of the night. Startled, Phi jumped back, but it wasn't the pot or the orb that had made the noise. A tiny shard had broken off, dislodging and falling onto her outstretched palm. An unexpected pang shot through her hand, not painful, but sharp enough to make her wince. Phi stared at the tiny shard in her palm, its edges as smooth and polished as the finest crystal. Fear flickered across her face as she looked back at the orb, its glow momentarily fading before returning to its gentle pulse. Gently, she placed the shard back into the pot, tucking it carefully among the chrysanthemums as if cradling a precious jewel. She didn't know what this strange occurrence meant, but she felt compelled to take care of it. So she stood up, walked over to the lake, and filled her skirt with rainwater. Then she came back and slowly began watering the pot, whispering soft words into the night. As the first rays of sunlight began to peek over the horizon, bathing the room in a soft golden glow, Phi continued her vigil. She talked about her day, her hopes and dreams, her fears and worries, sharing her innermost thoughts with the silent listener. As the hours passed, the orb's glow began to return, slowly at first, then with increasing intensity until it filled the room with a soft, calming light. With a gentle smile on her face, Phi watched over the shard, her heart filled with a mixture of worry and wonder. When the first hints of dawn appeared in the sky, she leaned closer, hoping for a miracle. The glow of the orb seemed to intensify, and she could have sworn she heard a faint chime, like the whisper of wind chimes, carried on a gentle breeze. Just then, the sky outside her window burst into color as the sun rose higher, chasing away the last vestiges of darkness. And when the room was filled with the golden hues of morning, something incredible happened. The orb, now glowing brighter than ever before, pulsed with a sudden burst of energy. Phi gasped as it began to levitate, rising slowly from the pot until it hovered just above her outstretched hand. A deep sense of peace washed over her as she stared at the mesmerizing display of light and color. She knew instinctively that this moment was not hers alone, that something far greater than she could understand was unfolding before her eyes. But just as quickly as it had started, the display ended. The orb slowly descended back into the pot, its glow dimming until it was nothing more than a faint glimmer amidst the petals. Disappointment washed over Phi, but it was quickly replaced by determination. She would wait, she decided, and wait she did. Day turned into night and the nights into days, but the orb remained unchanged, its glow a constant yet unchanging presence in her room. Phi continued to visit the orb every day, talking to it and caring for it as if it were a living thing. She watered it with rain and sang to it when she was happy, and sometimes she cried on its shoulder when sadness threatened to engulf her. Then one evening, just as the twilight deepened and the fireflies began their nightly dance, Fi noticed something that made her heart skip a beat. The orb, which had been so still for so long, was changing. A small fragment, no bigger than the tip of her finger, had been chipped away, leaving a rough edge where it had broken off. Panic surged through her. Hadn't something similar happened before? Was the shard missing because the orb had died? Tears welled up in her eyes as she cradled the pot, whispering apologies and promises to keep it safe. But the orb seemed to sense her despair, for, as the moonlight bathed the room in its silvery glow, the shard that had broken off 2 days ago slowly began to glow. At first it was faint, like a distant star struggling to be seen through a thick cloud. But as the minutes passed, the glow intensified, growing brighter and steadier until it pulsed with a soft, warm light. Overcome with joy, Fi watched in awe as the detached piece of the orb floated up and merged back into the main body. The moment the two fragments reunited, the orb emitted a soft chime, like the gentle chime song of wind bells carried on a gentle breeze. And with that, it began to rise, floating upwards with a slow grace that seemed to defy the pull of gravity. Trembling with anticipation, Fi reached out, but the orb gently pulled away, hovering just out of her reach. She understood then that it was calling to her, inviting her to follow. Hesitantly, she got up, her bare feet padding softly on the wooden floor, and moved to the window. Outside, the night was alive with the music of crickets and the soft hooting of an owl. The sky was a tapestry of twinkling stars, each one a distant sun winking back at her. With a deep breath, she stepped out into the night and closed her eyes, feeling the cool night air on her skin. When she opened them again, she saw the orb hovering just beyond the tree line, beckoning her to come. With a mix of excitement and trepidation, Fi began to walk towards the trees. As she moved deeper into the darkness, the orb's glow became brighter, guiding her path like a friendly spirit leading a lost child home. Suddenly, a brilliant light erupted from within the trees, followed by a loud crash that echoed through the night. Startled, Fi stumbled back, her heart pounding in her chest. Was whatever was out there dangerous? Should she turn back? For a moment, she hesitated, torn between her desire to follow the light and the fear of what she might find. But as she looked back at the orb, now hovering patiently behind her, she knew she couldn't ignore its call. Taking a deep breath, she pushed aside her fears and stepped forward, walking towards the light. As she emerged from the trees, she found herself in a clearing bathed in the soft glow of the orb. In the center stood a large oak tree, its branches reaching up towards the sky like gnarled fingers. And at the base of the tree lay the missing shard. Now glowing brightly, it had returned, drawn back to its source after its brief journey away. But it wasn't just the shard that had returned. Nestled in the crook of the oak's branches sat the pot, whole and intact, as if it had never been broken. Relief washed over Fi, and she rushed to the oak, cradling the pot in her arms as if it were a precious treasure. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, Fi woke from her sleep. She could still feel the warmth of the shard in her palm, and the memory of the orb's soft chime in her ears. She wasn't sure if what she experienced was real or a dream, but the lingering sensations told her otherwise. And then, as if to confirm her suspicions, she looked down at her palm to see a faint imprint where the shard had rested, a tangible reminder of the night's adventure. With a newfound sense of purpose, she got out of bed and walked over to the window. The sky was just beginning to lighten, and the world outside her window was waking up to a new day. A gentle smile touched her lips as she realized that the ordinary world she knew held extraordinary possibilities. The stars, the shards, the orb, they were all part of something much bigger than she could comprehend. A grand tapestry of existence woven with threads of magic and wonder. As the sun finally crested over the horizon, bathing her room in golden light, Fi stepped out into the day, ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited her. The memory of the orb's gentle glow and the chime of its song echoing in her heart, she knew that even in the everyday, magic could be found if only one had the eyes to see it.